My wife is dead. The best Christmas present I could have gotten. At the beginning of 2022, I caught my wife having an affair with one of her exes. Our marriage wasn't perfect. I was not the perfect husband, I will admit. But I did my best. I put effort into the entire 5 years we were together. I put my all into the relationship. I could not say the same. I was forced to confront the reality of who she truly was shortly after I caught her. She illegally evicted me from our shared home, lied to the police to try and get me arrested, tried to get me fired from my job, and tried to turn all of my friends against me. Some of these succeeded, while others did not. She has made my life a living hell since the day I asked her for the divorce and has planted her heels into the ground over our separation to try and drain all my finances and emotional strength from me. The only upside is we had no kids for her to use as weapons, but I soon found out that her policy of strict birth control with me did not extend to her suitor as he got her pregnant 5 months ago. I thought maybe this would help speed along the divorce, but it only rallied her in her efforts to destroy me. On Christmas Eve, my wife and her suitor went to a party where both of them got drunk. I find this fact terrible as all her friends knew she was pregnant as well. Her suitor drove them home, a mistake that would cost them both their lives. In the state I live in, our divorce is now considered to never have even started. I will be able to claim her life insurance policy for myself and move back into my home. Her parents called me up distraught yesterday, acting as if the last year had never happened and offered their full support to my funeral preparations for her. My confusion here was beyond belief, but the apple does not fall far from the tree when it comes to my wife. I told them if they want a funeral, it was coming out of their pockets. I will pay for her to be cremated, and deliver her ashes to them in the cheapest urn offered if they desire. They called me horribly and tried to guilt me about her life insurance, but after only 4 minutes on the phone with them, I hung up and blocked every one of her family's numbers. I'm going to be taking a few extra days off work to move back into my house over the next week. I've already made arrangements to have her stuff hauled off so my home will be an empty canvas to start my life anew. I don't know if there is a God, or if this was just karma, but I truly believe now that I have come out on the other side of the storm. Top replies. Typically I don't condone celebrated deaths, but it seems like you've earned it. Go buy a few lotto scratchers and a couple of Powerball and Mega Millions tickets. See if your luck is extending. However, this may be a universe testing thing, so try not to revel in it too much. Second reply. Happy New Year to you. I know it sounds horrible to talk like this when someone dies, especially tragically. However, their death does not negate their behavior when they were alive. Them dying doesn't absolve them of their heinous actions when they were still alive. I totally felt this about my baby daddy when he died a year and a half ago. After everything he put me and our son through, I always said if natural selection took him out of the equation, then I'd never shed a single tear for him. Now I do feel for my son, as I never wanted this to be the way I was given custody back after being separated and alienated from him, and then his father abandoning him with his parents later. And I do feel for his mom, who has now lost a child. I don't however feel sorry for my ex, because he made all the choices that led up to him choosing to take the drugs he OD'd on that led to him dying. The only thing I wonder is, did he realize what was happening to him and that he just handed me and our son the lifelong freedom we so deserved from his narcissistic abusive tendencies? Second story. My boyfriend asked for a paternity test for our child. As soon as the results come and show he is the father, I'm leaving him. I'm a new mom to a baby boy who is my pride and joy, and though it's been a roller coaster adjusting to taking care of a baby, the past few months have been great, tiring but great. I have a boyfriend of 3 years who is the first person relationship-wise I have ever loved, and I thought we were doing great as new parents but also as partners. Friday, he came home and he asked me for a paternity test. Just like that, it was completely out of the blue. I was putting away the dishes and he asked for one, like he was asking what was for dinner. I'm a different race from him, but our child, apart from the skin tone, is literally his mirror image from pictures I had seen of him when he was a baby. I was stunned when he asked, and his reasons were that he had to be sure he was the father, he had to have that certainty. All I remember as he was speaking is just immediately feeling pain. The man I love doesn't trust me. He would actually believe that I would fork someone else, cheat on him, and then try to pass off another man's baby as his. I have never ever given him reason to think I would cheat on him. I have tried to be transparent and communicated, and it wasn't enough. He told me he would give me time to think about this, that he wouldn't go behind my back and do this test, but for our relationship to move forward, he needs to be 100% sure. He repeated this because he, in his words, needed me to realize how serious he was. After thinking for a couple of days, I'm going to allow him this paternity test because I have nothing to hide. I never cheated and would have never cheated on him. Once it's proven that he's the father, I'm ending it, leaving the same day, and I am going to try my best to be a cooperative co-parent with him. In the meantime, I'm coming up with my exit plan, a place to live, and a lawyer to work out a custody arrangement in court. I can't even tell my family or my friends right now because they would go nuclear, and my first priority is our child. I hope the test was worth it to him. I'm not asking for advice or reassurance or to explain his side. I'm just realizing this part of my life is now over. What a way to start the new year, huh? Top replies. Not telling others is a good thing. That way you know it won't get back to him. He can't backtrack after the results come in. I'm petty. I would also record him saying it and then record him getting the results. Just so you can play back for him in the future. Also, if he ever lies and says he never said it, I'm sorry this is happening to you. I'm glad you are doing what is best for you. Once the test is back and you are able to leave, focus on healing and being the best mother you can be. Then go out there and find a partner who is worthy of you. All the best. The third story. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter she could learn something from my friend's daughter, who got a job she didn't? I'm 49M and my daughter is 22F. I've changed the names in the post. My best friend, Tom's daughter Kate, is an architecture major. She got accepted to a college in California and graduated with good results. My daughter Anne also went into architecture and she's doing well. Anne is generally a quieter person and she does tend to laze around a bit. Both Anne and Kate applied for a job at the same firm, which is co-owned by Tom's brother. She didn't end up getting the job, but Kate did, and she was very upset. She's moved on and got offers from a couple of other places. We had a friend's Christmas a couple of days after actual Christmas, where some of my college buddies and their families got together. The conversation turned to Tom and his wife, and they were talking about Kate's new job. I saw Anne and Kate talking and we congratulated her. We all came back home. Anne left her car at our place and went back to her apartment after. She started saying she has to work so hard to get what Kate gets handed to her. I said this is a competitive field and Anne should be more diligent. She blew up at me and my wife, that were egging Kate and Tom on, and apparently Kate told Anne she could help her out. I eventually told Anne she needs to stop sulking over Kate. Yes, maybe Kate had an edge at the firm, but from what I've heard from Tom, she always works on herself and is getting better, and Anne could learn something. Well, Anne got pretty angry after that. Both me and my wife called her, but she didn't answer. I don't think what I said was wrong, but my younger daughter thinks otherwise and said I should post on here. The top replies. You are the idiot original poster. The fact your daughter got multiple offers despite losing out on this one to the owner's niece is absolutely outstanding. You have no idea what she's like at work, just like you have absolutely no idea what Kate is really like in her free time. You get a very biased report from Kate's uncle. Of course he wants to make it sound good. How can you sit there and beat down your daughter when she's accomplished so much on her own merit? I hope she cuts contact with you because it seems no matter what she does it won't be good enough for you, and she doesn't need that negativity in her life. The second reply. You are the idiot original poster. The fact your daughter got multiple offers despite losing out on this one to the owner's niece is absolutely outstanding. You have no idea what she's like at work, just like you have absolutely no idea what Kate is really like in her free time. You get a very biased report from Kate's uncle. Of course he wants to make it sound good. How can you sit there and beat down your daughter when she's accomplished so much on her own merit? I hope she cuts contact with you because it seems no matter what she does it won't be good enough for you, and she doesn't need that negativity in her life. The third reply. You are the idiot. It's a firm owned by her uncle, of course she got the job. The only lesson here is, it doesn't matter how good you are at your job, success is achieved through family connections, which while often true is a terrible lesson. Of course Tom thinks everything was impartial, he's her dad, but of course it wasn't. His niece just happened to be the best candidate for the firm? Come on. I'm sure there are things Anne could improve, but there's no lesson here except that life is unfair and a niece matters more than a best friend's daughter. And if Kate is so great, how come she had to take a job at the family company? That's often a sign you couldn't make it on your own. You've completely misinterpreted the situation and insulted your daughter for no reason. Fourth story. Am I the idiot for refusing to put my wife's name on my house? Wife's 33F. Father passed last month and her mother keeps telling her to convince me to put my house both our names in case I die. The house we live in is separate marital property. I pay the mortgage and pay for all maintenance to keep it that way. I've been a nasty divorce and want to make sure this house is my asset. I think my mother-in-law needs to mind her own damn business, but now my wife keeps bringing the house up. It's not my largest financial asset but pretty close. It came up again last night and I shut it down with a firm no. I could tell she was pissed. Am I the idiot? Edit. Since it's a common message, I didn't delete my other post, the sub did. It says so in the first comment. Yes, my wife's father-in-law passed and we thought she'd have an inheritance, but it turns out he took out loans against his retirement, so it's actually negative after funeral home costs.
If you read that post, my wife asked me what I thought she should do with the money, which is now nothing.
I suggested college funds for the kids. I know I'm not entitled to any of her inheritance. WTF. Top replies. I get he's supporting her and her child, but seems kind of skewed to me. He refuses to put her name on house but wants her to share her inheritance with his daughter. She's raising 2, or at least 1.5, of his kids as well as her own. The amount of free childcare and domestic work she does for him should offset the financial input he makes day to day, especially if the house is in his name, so it's his asset he's paying for instead of rent in the long term, and he's really only supporting her for food and bills. And he's said in a comment that he hasn't bothered to make a will to protect her, or their child, Ren, in the event of his death. So I'm not surprised that she wants some financial security in return, because at present she's incredibly vulnerable for the unpaid work she does, and lol nope, isn't really an appropriate way to address that. I'm going with you or the idiot on this one, unless he writes a secure will to ensure she's not homeless or destitute as a result of raising his kids, especially as he says he has another, bigger, asset to his name and therefore wouldn't be homeless/broke even if he lost part of the house in a divorce. And I suspect this post has been written very carefully to avoid mentioning that mother-in-law/wife are proposing that she buy a shares/half of the house from him with the inheritance rather than just expecting him to sign it over as he makes it out to be here. Second reply. There's too few details for me to make a solid judgment on, such as how long you've owned the house, how much equity is in it, etc. However, you're married. You aren't paying for the house. You both are. It doesn't matter if she makes $0 and you provide everything, she's 50% of that contribution. The fact that you don't want her on the house is a reasonable emotional consideration since you've been burned before. However, you are the idiot for not considering the fact that all income and expenses she's are a shared effort now. Edit. I'm not implying that premarital assets are owed to her, just that he's not paying for the house all on his own post-marriage. Third reply. You are the idiot. So, first, we know from this post of 20 days ago that you already wanted to get part of your father-in-law's inheritance to his 2 grandkids, your wife's kids, split into 3 ways to cover your child as well, presumably for future college expenses. But, you don't want to have your house put into your wife's name because you divorced once and you want to keep your assets to you, while trying to get her assets and her children's assets split for your kid. Oh. And you're 37 with no will, so if you got into a car wreck tomorrow and died, your wife would be left with nothing, which would lead to a court fight, also presumably, between her and your family. So yes, you're being a total idiot. You married her. You've already tried to get her assets and her children's assets split to cover your child. But, you don't want to have a two-way street because it's yours.